Yo, what's going on? Welcome back. Today we're jumping into my top 5 meta loadouts here after a recent update. There's a lot of really cool new and improved builds, and along with the one-shot sniper that you guys have not tried yet. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe for more, and let's hop into this. First gun here today is going to be this TAC V. This is a super hard-hitting battle rifle, and I just kind of want to show you guys this in the firing range real fast to show you what it can do here with the correct build. But so close range, super easy. Medium range, super easy. Long range gets a little more difficult right there, but it's actually going to hit incredibly hard as long as you manage to hit your shots. For our first attachment here on the TAC V, we have the TY-LR8. This is going to give us that horizontal recoil control. It's going to be very, very beneficial to have this thing on here just because this thing does like to bounce around quite a bit, and this really is going to help stabilize that out. The tune here on that is actually going to be fully maxed out for that recoil stabilization, and also down here maxed out for that recoil control. This is one of those few guns where you can actually max out a few of the attachments, so it makes tuning pretty easy. After that, we have the FTAC Grouper 56 for aiming idle stability, hipfire accuracy, and recoil stabilization. This is a tried and true underbarrel here in a variety of guns, and I absolutely love using it. And here's going to be the tuning on this. It's going to be maxed out for recoil stabilization at a 0.80, and all the way maxed out here on the bottom for aiming idle stability at a 0.40. Of course, down here we're going to go through on that 50 round mag, as the base round size is definitely not enough. I mean, 30 is just okay. You probably get away with that if you're playing something like solos, but if you're playing like trios and quads, for sure want to run a 50 round mag. I'd probably just run it regardless anyways, but you guys get what I'm saying. After that, we happen to have the FSS combat grip. This is going to help us out once again with recoil control, because the TAC V, as you guys can see by the firing range, definitely likes to kick up here quite a bit, so this is definitely going to help us out. The tune on this here is going to be a plus 0.55 and a plus 0.16, a little bit more for the recoil steadiness and the aiming idle stability. This is not going to be a very fast build, but this thing's really going to hit incredibly hard. And lastly, we happen to have this brute stock here. This is going to give us that aiming stability and recoil control. Once again, things we desperately need for the TAC V to make this thing actually usable and viable. It's definitely one of those guns that if you can control it, you can be an absolute menace with it, but if you can't, you're gonna have a real tough time. And the tune on that here is going to be a plus 1.16 and a plus 0.70 on the bottom. And here's gonna be my full general overview and my build for the TAC V. Hope you guys enjoy. Next up, we're gonna be taking a look here at the ISO 45. This is one of my personal favorite SMGs. The only downside is these iron sights are sometimes can be a little bit hard to use, but otherwise super fast TTK, great mobility, as you guys can be able to see. So close range, medium range, I mean, listen, you're just gonna absolutely delete. So the first attachment here on this gun is gonna be the 7EX Raptor V2 barrel. This is gonna give us that aim down sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. You're gonna have some of these cons right here, but that really does not affect this gun whatsoever. You're gonna be much better off running the EX Raptor barrel as opposed to running any of these other ones in here. I would highly recommend you stick with this barrel, even though it, technically speaking, does have a con to your damage range. The tune on that here is going to be a negative 0.23 and a negative 0.22, so that's how we have that tuned. After that, we're going to go up in here for the 1MW quickfire laser. This is going to give us that increase in ADS speed. A lot of people previously would run the VLK laser 7MW, including myself, but you know, with that season 4 update and everything, all the different buffs and nerfs, the 1MW quickfire laser is definitely going to be the way to go for this gun and a lot of other SMGs in general now. The tune on that here is going to be a negative 0.44 and a negative 32.90. Keep in mind, some of these can be a little bit more relative. You don't have to exactly have a 32.90, but just try to get it pretty close. Down here on the very bottom, we of course happen to have the 45 round mag. That base 30 is nowhere close to enough. I never ever recommend for someone to go for a base magazine size on basically any gun. It's okay maybe for ground loot and solos, but otherwise, I mean, you feel like you're at a real disadvantage, especially on a loadout gun. There's no way you want to be stuck with a stock magazine size. We always go for the 45. After that, here in the rear grip section, we have the EXP shear. This is going to give us that increase in sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. Basically two things we really need because we're trying to make this gun as fast as possible here for those close range engagements, and this is going to help us out. And the tuning on that here is going to be all the way maxed out for that aim down sight speed and all the way maxed out for the sprint to fire speed. This is one of those attachments where you can max the attributes out, and it'll be okay for the tuning. Last but definitely not least, we have the Demo Fade TAC stock for aim walking speed and sprint speed. I absolutely love having an increase in aim walking speed. Makes it feel like you can strafe around really fast here while being ADS, so that is definitely a huge plus. And sprint speed, I love being able to just kind of run as fast as possible here in game, especially when I got my SMG out. That is the primary reason I have it out, is to be A, good for those close quarter situations, and also B, just so I can actually be able to move as fast as possible. I hate moving slow. But the tuning on that is going to be negative 2.06 and negative 1.39, and that is going to conclude my full builds here for the ISO 45. This is really solid, and I'd recommend probably running the no tracer version of this because through the iron sights, it gets pretty tough to see. For our third gun up here today, we're going to be taking a look at the SPX 80. This is a new sniper that has come onto the scene that a lot of people are going to be using right now because it has great one-shot potential here, pretty much out past that 40-ish meters. You guys are going to be able to see on the firing range. I mean, this is a super fast ADS build. I mean, very easy to be able to use. I mean, obviously you're gonna be getting them headshots here on the dummies and the firing range, but overall in game, out 40 pass meters or up to 40 meters, you're going to be able to get those one shots, and that's super nice. For our first attachment here on this gun, we're going to be running the FSS OLE laser for ADS speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. This is a really good attachment here for this gun. A lot of people maybe have run the Schlager PEQ box IV, but I actually really enjoy running this, and this has helped me out tremendously. I mean, sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. This is a pretty aggro build here for this gun, and by the way, we are not going to be tuning the laser, so there's no tune for this at all. Next up down below, what's going to really help us out that one shot potential is the .300 incendiary rounds. This is just going to, of course, give you the incendiary, that burning damage. A lot of snipers in Warzone require, an incendiary, some like a type of explosive round to be able to do that after damage, because you're going to be pretty close to like one shot afterwards, even just from a standard assault rifle, and that burn damage is what's going to take you and actually knock you down. So even if you don't get the headshot, there is a very high probability that they will just go down from the burn damage. And here's how that is tuned for maximum damage range and also maximum bullet velocity. We really don't care about any of this stuff over here. We'd rather just tune it straight up for these two. Next up in the optics section, we're in the Forge Tac Delta 4. This is the primary, sight that a lot of people are going to be using for their sniper rifles, myself included. This is a super easy one to be able to use, and given that it's 5.5 times magnification, this is just a really solid one to be able to have. It's not too much, it's not too little. It's a nice happy medium, and it works great for pretty much all maps and situations. And the tuning on that here is going to be a -0.30, and all the way maxed out there also on the bottom for that far distance to push it as far away from us as possible. That's more of a personal preference thing down here. You can bring it closer, you can bring it farther. I personally like to have it farther, but that is just me. Now in the back, what we're going to be running here in the bolt section is the FSS T87 bolt. This is going to give us that faster rechambering speed. It's just going to allow us to get those, bolts back in the chamber here faster, be able to fire off more rounds. That is definitely something, you want to have on a sniper rifle, because you're trying to actually take people out as fast as possible, and something's got a slow rechambering speed. There's a good probability that your target's going to get away from you, and you may not actually get the down or the finish, so this is pretty clutch. And for our last attachment here today, we have the Schlager Match Grip here for sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. Like I said, this is a very aggressive one-shot sniper build. You guys are going to be able to run at that medium-ish range. It's not like a super long-range gun, but we're definitely outfitting this to be pretty aggressive, so this is why we have that right there. And the tuning on that goes as follows: for maximum aim down sight speed and, of course, maximum sprint to fire speed, you can have this tuned for that maxed out, and it will not affect the rest of the gun in a negative way. So that is my full build there for the SPX-80. This thing is incredible. Recommending for you guys to try this out. Now I got a build for you guys here with an updated Lockman sub. I know a lot of people really enjoy using this. It's one of those early guns people leveled up. It's a great SMG still, even after a couple nerfs, and this is the updated build for it. So close range, gonna be very easy to control. Even at medium range, it's not going to be as effective, but you're not really using it at medium range. This is definitely a secondary gun that is specifically for super close range. For our very first attachment on this, we have the L38 Falcon 226mm barrel. That's going to give us that increase for our movement speed and aim down sight speed. We don't care too much about the cons, as that's not really what we're worried about. We just want to make this thing as effective as it can be at close range, which is going to be that movement speed and aim down sight speed. The tune on this here is going to be a -0.21 and also a +0.30, just to kind of give us a little bit more damage range. You probably could tune this for a little bit more ADS speed if you wanted to, but this definitely does help out. Now in the underbarrel section, what we have to kind of counteract some of the recoil is going to be the X10 Nexus grip for aiming idle stability and recoil stabilization. No, this is not the fastest Lockman sub build in the world, but it's not going to have like also crazy recoil like some of the other ones do that have like the no stock and everything else like that. This can be a lot more manageable, as you could also tell. I'm saying you can tell pretty much by like the firing range on how I demonstrated it, but this is the tuning here for it at -0.80 max out, and all the way maxed out here on the other side here for aiming idle stability. Down here in the magazine section, we're going to be using the 50 round drum. This is a personal preference thing. You guys could use the 40 round mag, you can use the 50 round drum. I think personally, after all the health updates and everything, that the 50 round drum and also some of the nerfs to this gun, this is going to work out better in the long run, so I'd recommend for you guys to use this. Now moving up in here to the laser section, we have the VLK Laser 7MW. This is giving us that aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. A tried and true attachment we've used on so many different guns before, but this works out great for this gun in particular. Maybe not as much that 1MW, though you could definitely try it out, because we happen to have that also on the ISO 45, which was earlier in the video, but pretty much between these two, I'd recommend is what your options are. Now, the laser tuning here is going to be a -0.31 and a -23.03. Like I said before, this is kind of like a relative thing. You can want to get it to around this area. I know it can be very difficult on controller. That's why I do a lot of my tuning on mouse. I literally unplug my controller and I actually tune it specifically with my mouse to be a little bit more accurate. And lastly, for this gun, we have the Lockman TCG10. This is going to help us out with that recoil control. This is a really solid option. I've ran this so many times on my different Lockman builds, and this is just just a great addition to this gun. The tune on this here is going to be negative 0.29 and also a negative 0.13. So that's how we have that tune. And that is my full Lockman sub build. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. It's a super banger build. And for our last gun here today, we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorites in the game right now, the M4. This is a really great build for it. It's got great mobility, great accuracy, recoil control, all the above. So close range here, super easy, medium, and long range. You just got to pull down on the stick a little bit, and otherwise you are going to be good to go. This is a solid build. First attachment here is going to be the Harbinger D20. This is giving us that sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. Overall, great things here to be able to have on this gun. This is a great attachment. The tune on that here is going to be a plus 0.90 and a plus 0.77. A little bit more for the recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. After that, we happen to have the High Tower 20 barrel. So that increase in bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hipfire accuracy. In comparison to all these different barrels down here, this is by far the best one if you're making this a primary AR. Trying to make this thing super effective at range. This is definitely going to be your way to go without a doubt. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is the best one. Now for the tuning on this, it's going to be a plus 0.19 for a little bit more recoil steadiness and a plus 0.22 leaning towards the damage range. Down here in the magazine section, we're going to go for that 60 round magazine because I am a 60 round mag kind of guy. That's what I go for. So I go for that 60. I have ran the 45 and run that in solos, and it's actually worked out really nicely. If you want a tad bit more mobility, but overall 60 rounds is pretty much going to be your way to go as long as you're playing those bigger game modes. I definitely recommend for that. I mean, you're playing Al Mazrah, if you're playing, DMZ, no matter if you're playing, squads, just probably go for that 60. It's going to be better more often than not. After that, we're going to go back in here to the rear grip section since we're not going to be running a foregrip, and this is going to kind of pretty much be that. We have the Socken ZX grip here for that increase in recoil control. If you want to, you could probably throw in something like an F-Tac Gripper 56. That'd be pretty much like my other go-to if I was going to take this off. But overall, this works out great as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can run the F-Tac Gripper in place of the Socken ZX grip, but this is what I have. And the tune on that here is going to be a plus 0.55 and a plus 0.20. A little bit more aiming, idle stability, and recoil steadiness. And last but definitely not least, we have the Aim Op V4. So this is one of my favorite sights to run on pretty much any AR. This is kind of like the go-to. It's not like an ACOG, but it's kind of like an ACOG. Down here, actually a little bit farther, you guys can actually even also try out the SZ Recharge. Between this and the Aim Op V4, they're pretty much identical, just a little bit different visually. You can pretty much also tune them the exact same. So between that, the Aim Op V4, you really can't go wrong. And the tune on that's going to be negative 1.65, and all they max out there on the bottom for that far distance, pushing it as far away from us as possible. That's my full build there for the M4. That has been my top 5. You guys enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like, subscribe as notifications turned on. Also check out this other video on screen, and I'll see you guys all later.